Ukraine destroys 635 of 673 enemy air attack weapons, including nearly all cruise missiles. That was the headline on December 23, 2025. Subscribe to Defense Reports, your go-to source for timely, in-depth military and defense reports. I'm Alex. Join me with Aurea in this latest deep dive by Defense Report for a sharp, no-nonsense breakdown of the latest in global defense news, military technology, and strategic developments. And today we're going to cover the silent revolution that just reshaped the skies over Eastern Europe.
That headline, it really does signal a profound shift. I mean, on the night of December 23rd, we saw a massive saturation assault. Russia launched over 600 drones and dozens of strategic missiles. The whole point was to just overwhelm the system.
And yet it didn't work.
Not at all. The outcome was stunning. Of the 35 strategic cruise missiles launched, 34 were neutralized.
34 out of 35.
That's a 97.1% success rate against their most valuable, their most dangerous subsonic weapons. It points to a level of air defense that, frankly, just a year ago seemed impossible.
Okay, so let's unpack this. The mission for this deep dive for you is to look past that one incredible headline. We want to understand the entire architecture, the systems, the people, and the strategies that made it happen.
Exactly. This isn't just about one plane or one missile. It's about a fully integrated, a Western standard network that's now taking charge.
A network with the F-16 right at its heart.
Precisely. We need to look at the F-16 not just as a fast jet, but as a central node in this complex, data-driven system, and how achieving this kind of interception rate is for the first time becoming economically sustainable.
So let's start with those hard numbers to establish the new baseline. On December 23rd, as you said, 34 cruise missiles down out of 35, and most of the credit for those intercepts went directly to the F-16s.
And you have to understand the stakes. Russia's entire winter campaign is aimed at critical energy infrastructure. If even a few of those KH-101s or Calibras had gotten through, I mean, the cost ahead of winter would have been just catastrophic.
So stopping them isn't just a military win, it's a matter of national survival.
Absolutely. To get a 97% success rate against missiles that are using terrain masking to fly low and fast. It's historic.
And if we zoom out from just that one night, what has the F-16 fleet done since it really came online in August 2024?
The operational tempo has been just relentless. In only a few months, the F-16 fleet is credited with taking down over 1,300 airborne targets.
1,300. That includes drones, missiles.
Everything subsonic. But crucially, they aren't just defensive. They are true multi-role fighters. They've also hit over 300 Russian ground targets, command posts, logistics depots, things that push Russia's whole support structure further back from the front.
Right, that dual capability is key. And we know the overall intercept rate for the entire conflict is around 84%, which is already very high.
Yeah.
But the F-16s are clearly the special ingredient for dealing with those really tricky, low-flying cruise missiles.
They are. They're the perfect tool for that threat. This is where we get into the tech, because the plane itself is only half the story. It's the network, the integrated nervous system that NATO tech provides that makes it a true force multiplier.
Okay, let's get under the hood of that system. The foundation, you said, is something called Link 16. For those not familiar, what is that?
Think of it as NATO's military Wi-Fi. It's a secure, jam-resistant, tactical data link. It lets everything air, land, and sea assets share data in real time.
So instead of a pilot just seeing what their own radar sees?
See what everybody sees. It creates one single unified picture of the battlefield. It turns a collection of assets into a single cohesive system.
And there's a specific piece of software that lets the F-16s talk directly to the ground-based Patriot batteries, right?
Yes. The CRC System Interface, or CSI. It's basically the common operating system for this whole cooperative engagement. Before this, a ground radar operator would spot a missile and have to, verbally radio the coordinates to a pilot.
Which takes precious seconds, seconds you don't have when a missile is moving at 800 kilometers an hour.
Exactly. CSI just eliminates that lag. The moment a Patriot radar locks a target, that data flashes instantly onto the F-16 pilot's display. The pilot knows the target's exact path, speed, everything, without even turning on their own radar. It reduces the pilot's workload and just speeds up the whole kill chain.
It sounds like giving the F-16 a kind of sixth sense. But for that to work, you need eyes that can see over the horizon. And that brings us to the Swedish AYCS, the ASC-890.
The ASC-890 is the ultimate game changer here. Ground-based radars, even the best ones, are limited by the curvature of the Earth. Cruise missiles exploit that. They hug the terrain to stay hidden.
But the AWACS, flying way up at 6,000 meters, sees right over those obstacles.
Completely. And its Erie-Eye radar has a detection range of up to 450 kilometers.
450 kilometers, so it can sit safely behind the front lines and still see deep into enemy airspace.
That's the key. It provides that crucial early warning. It spots those terrain-hugging missiles, tracks them, and then it vectors the F-16s to the perfect intercept point. It can add several critical minutes of reaction time.
Which brings us from the systems to the execution. There's an amazing story from December 13th, 2024 about a pilot, just called Pilot A. It really highlights the incredible ingenuity of the people flying these machines.
It really does. It just perfectly captures the high-stakes environment. Pilot A, a 30-year-old F-16 pilot, gets scrambled during a major Russian attack. His jet is armed with 4 air-to-air missiles.
And he uses those 4 missiles for 4 kills, a perfect run. But then he calls him Winchester. He's out of ordnance.
Exactly. He's empty. But ground control tells him there are 2 more Russian cruise missiles still inbound, heading straight for Kiev, and there's no one else close enough to stop them.
So he does something pretty much unheard of in modern air combat. He goes for a gun kill.
With the M61 Vulcan 20mm cannon, it was pure, terrifying improvisation. A cruise missile is a small, fast target moving at Mach 0.7 or 0.8. To hit it with a cannon, he had to get within 500 meters. That is dangerously close. You're flying right into the potential debris field of an exploding warhead.
But he did it.
He did. He fired the Vulcan, which spits out 6,000 rounds a minute. And because the missiles were flying in a tight stack formation, he managed to destroy both of them simultaneously.
6 kills in one sortie. It's an incredible story, but it also points to the grim economic reality behind all this. That kind of risk-taking isn't just about bravery, it's about necessity.
It is entirely about the math. Look, an AIM-120 AMRAAM missile costs about $1 million a shot.
$1 million.
Meanwhile, Russia is throwing thousands of these cheap Shahed drones, which cost maybe $20,000 to $50,000 each. If you use $1 million weapon to kill a $20,000 drone, you lose the economic war.
So what's the sustainable solution they've found for these lower-end subsonic threats?
The real game changer for sustainability has been repurposing the Advanced Precision Kill Weapon System, the APKWS. These are basically laser-guided 70mm rockets adapted for air-to-air use.
And the cost?
The cost just plummets. An EPKWS unit is only about $15,000 to $30,000. An F-16 can carry 14, maybe even 28 of them. And they have an over 80% success rate against drones and subsonic cruise missiles.
Wait, hold on. An 80% success rate means 1 in 5 still gets through. When you're talking about protecting a city, is that an acceptable risk?
That is the essential question in a war of attrition, right? 100% is always the goal, but using APKWS at an 80+% rate allows them to save those $1 million AMRAAMs for the highest value targets. Russian fighters, maybe a high-speed missile. It's a calculated trade-off. This efficiency saves an estimated $194 million per night compared to just firing AMRAAMs at everything. It's the only way to make this defense economically viable in the long run.
So even with this incredible defensive shield, there are still holes. What are the vulnerabilities that remain?
That's the persistent challenge. The F-16 and this network are dominating the subsonic threats. But the high-speed ballistic missiles, the Iskander-M and the hypersonics like the Kinzhanel, they're still the deadliest weapons Russia has.
And they fly too fast and too high for an F-16 to have a real chance at intercepting them.
Right. That burden falls entirely on ground systems like the Patriot. And Russia knows this. They're constantly adapting those missiles to defeat the Patriot.
How are they doing that?
We're seeing reports that they've upgraded the guidance systems. Now, the Iskander and Kinzhal will fly a standard path, but then at the very last second, they execute a sharp high-G maneuver, a sudden veer, or a steep dive. It's designed specifically to confuse the Patriot's tracking algorithm, giving it only milliseconds to react. And that has, unfortunately, led to a drop in the intercept rate for those specific missiles.
The F-16s themselves are also a target, right? Especially when they're on the ground.
Absolutely. The F-16 has a key vulnerability. It's low-slung air intake. It's very sensitive to what's called foreign object debris, or FOD. If that engine sucks in a rock or even just dirt from a rough runway, it can be catastrophic. So they need clean, well-maintained airfields.
Which limits where they can operate from.
It does. Ukraine mitigates this by dispersing the jets constantly, using deception, but it's a huge operational burden. They can't just use any old highway strip.
And finally, we have to talk about the human cost. This isn't just about machines.
No, it's not. The operational tempo is brutal, and we've seen the loss of several high-value pilots. Eltiner Oleksiy Moonfishmees, for example, was killed in August 2024. The need for pilots is so urgent that they've had to cut the standard F-16 training timeline by 3 months. That's a necessary risk, but it is a risk. Ultimately, survival depends on the pilot's ability to adapt, not just the hardware.
So, zooming out, what does all this success in the air mean for the bigger picture? For negotiations, for the future of the war?
It translates directly into diplomatic leverage. Russia's strategy is simple: bomb Ukraine into submission, destroy the infrastructure, break the political will, and force Kiev to the negotiating table on Moscow's terms.
But this air defense bubble prevents that collapse.
It directly prevents it. By neutralizing nearly all of those strategic cruise missiles, the F-16 network is literally buying time and preserving Ukraine's strength for any eventual talks.
And what's the long-term vision here? What does Ukraine's Air Force look like after this conflict?
The goal is ambitious. They're looking to build a fleet of 250 to 300 Western jets by 2035. And that's not just F-16s. They're looking at more advanced F-16 Block 70s, maybe French Rafales, and especially the Swedish Gripen,
Why the Gripen specifically?
because it was designed from the ground up to operate from rugged, short runways and even highways. It directly solves that FOD vulnerability we talked about. The whole idea is to make Ukraine a long-term bulwark for European security.
And to hit targets deep inside Russia, they're developing their own systems to reduce reliance on the West, correct?
Absolutely. They need to separate defense from deep strike. The F-16s need to focus on protecting Ukrainian skies. So to hit strategic Russian targets, they're investing heavily in their own long-range systems, like the Flamingo cruise missile, which reportedly has a range of 3,800 kilometers. That keeps the pressure on the Kremlin without using Western-supplied weapons.
So when you put it all together, the F-16 has proven it's not some magic bullet, but it's an absolutely essential tool that allows Ukraine to fight an economically viable war of attrition. The challenge now shifts from getting the jets to sustaining this whole complex system against a constantly adapting enemy.
That's it, exactly. The real battle now is winning the economic and logistical war to keep these planes flying, the pilots trained, and the network running day after day. The combination of Western tech and Ukrainian ingenuity is rewriting the book on modern air defense, but sustainability is everything.
You've been listening to Defense Report by Alex and Arya, where we analyze the latest in military strategy, global defense, and advanced weaponry. Subscribe to Defense Reports, your go-to source for timely, in-depth military and defense reports. We'll catch you next time.